Mexico's murdering grandmother was all over the internet last week, and that's all everybody seems to talk about because it touches on something that's very common for a lot of our friends and family in Mexico. She is victim of a scam that happens to a lot of older folks. What ends up happening is sometimes it's through violence or sometimes it's just through them not being there, but they show up and all of a sudden there's people in their house and they can't get back in. And the way that this hustle works is that there's local gangs, I guess is the best way you could call it, that work with local authorities, local officials, judges, county clerks, and things like that to basically move in on somebody's house and somebody's property and claim it as theirs. And because they're paying off all these local authorities, they end up getting the titles and the deeds and all the paperwork done so that they could say that it's legally their property. And this is something that's happened all over Mexico. I got a few family members and friends that had to deal with this situation, and it's super difficult to undo it because not only do you have to go through the court system and prove all these things, but if they're in your house already, how do you get access to your paperwork and all the things that prove that this is your house and this, that, and the other, especially if they're working in cahoots with the courts and the county clerks and all the local officials, right? Because they get bribed off and they get a big fat paycheck. The thing that sucks about this is usually the gangs that are doing this locally, they're called parachuters, the ones that focus on moving into these pads. But how do you go against a local, I hate to say gangs because they're not really a gang. Honestly, sometimes they mask as unions or syndicates, which is even more fucked up because that's what allows them to operate out in the open. They got social media pages, because on the face of it, they're like there to help the community and blah, 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 blah. But that's really just a front to be out here scamming and hustling old folks out of their pads. So that's what happened to Doña Carlota. And the video that went viral was when she went back to her pad with a fucking gun in hand, and her son had a gun, and her daughter was there too, and she basically pulled up and shot the two of the dudes that lived there. And she was shortly arrested after that. She's gonna face trial. I think she's doing house arrest right now until things get cleared up and she goes through her whole court case. But a ton of people are on her side because they've had to deal with that. I got family members that have had to deal with that. And a lot of people are like, oh no, she should face the full justice of the law. And yeah, she should, but also at the same time, we all know how common this scam and this hustle is. And there's very few ways that you could push back against it to get your house back or to get basically get your house back. So props to Doña Carlota and stay sharp.